Teachers are storytellers, and storytellers have been teachers for millennia. Actually, storytelling is the oldest form of teaching. Back to the caves, while our ancestors were forming their communities and cultures, they literally survived with the help of storytelling. So our brains are hardwired to think in terms of a beginning, middle, and end. That's the skeleton of any story. The moment we start telling a story, some magic emerges. The magic of anticipation, attention, imagination, creativity captures the eyes, the ears, and the brains of the listeners. Sounds like a skill we need to apply in a classroom? Definitely. Being a teacher has always been challenging. Now, more than ever, students and teachers face unprecedented challenge: academic, emotional, behavioral. Overwhelmed by these demanding times, teachers need new methods and approaches to classroom management, teaching, and communication. Well, hello, this is Golden Ratio Teaching, and I'm Ina. When we designed the project, we wanted to address teachers and provide teachers with inspiration and also with tools to support this inspiration. This short video will give you the step-by-step approach to stories to remember, or how to teach with the help of Golden Ratio Teaching, and how to use storytelling in your classroom. Chemistry, biology, geometry, history, foreign languages, whatever you teach, this is a universal aid. The most adventurous teacher of geometry proved that. Her class really loved the story of Yasin, the rabbit, and the grandfather's cylinder. If you're curious, we have shared this in our manual. But to illustrate our approach, I will use the example with butterflies. Well, I'm not an expert in butterflies myself, so I use the internet to collect some facts. Here are the facts. What do we do next? We take these facts and turn them into a test. Is it always necessary to make a test? Of course not. But it comes handy if we want to measure knowledge at entry level and at exit level. That is, before and after we teach. Its main purpose is to test the knowledge of the participants, but also to draw their attention to the new elements. It is easier for the brain to perceive information which already sounds familiar, at least vaguely. It's called priming. We can include in the test some funny elements because laughter facilitates the process of learning. So here is the test. Now, when we have all the main facts, we tested the initial knowledge, we need to think about the story. Why? Because if we include all these facts in a story, make it interesting, touching, provoking the imagination, our students will hear them. Really hear. What I usually do, I prepare the list of facts and that I have identified and keep it handy and ready to be included in the story. We start writing the story by applying some general principles of storytelling and creative writing. In the story, we rather randomly include the facts that we have identified. But the question is, how do we write a story? We turn to experts, of course, and these experts that claim that we need, first of all, the main idea or premise. And in our case, with the story that I will give later as an example, is love cures sadness. Nothing to do with butterflies, doesn't matter. And then the characters. We have a boy, his grandfather, uh, a grandmother, and an aunt. The boy loves reading, he's curious. His name is Yasin, he loves his grandfather, and he's fascinated by butterflies because the grandfather is fascinated by them. The grandfather, on the other hand, plays the violin. He goes for long walks with the grandson, and the grandfather is sad because he has lost his love, the grandmother. The memories of her are connected with legends and stories about butterflies. Well, next we need a conflict. And the conflict in this case is the grandfather refuses to speak and the boy wants to make him speak again. Well, next we need to think about the plot. That is, the events that take place and lead the entire story. The boy is in the dusky library reading a book, and his grandfather comes in, and unaware of the boy's presence, he says something. The secret of the old man's silence is revealed. He refuses to speak because he still mourns his beloved wife. The boy listens to the stories his grandfather tells him about love and butterflies with awe. The old man shares legends and facts about butterflies with his grandson. Experts suggest writing an outline so that it helps us arrange the plot. I personally very much agree with the experts. However, I never have time to follow their advice. And if I do write an outline, I do not stick to it unquestioningly. Even if something needs to be changed, the outline keeps me focused to that beginning, middle, and end pattern we mentioned above. And speaking about stories, we should not forget the gift, the value we add, whatever our purpose is. To teach chemistry or history or any facts, we need to transmit to our students or audience. Telling a good story is already something special. We manage to open their ears, eyes, hearts. So we might as well give them more, some added value. Give them an understanding of empathy, or friendship, or beauty, or love, or freedom. And also, I find it really important to include emotions. Information is memorized much easier when it is tinted by sentiments of any kind. Well, now it is time to start writing. After I have finished the story, I usually look up some images to support perception. If it's online training, I prepare a presentation, or when it is in a classroom, I might print the pictures out and either hang them on the walls like posters or show them to the students. You might want to use toys too. Then I rehearse by reading the text out loud several times with some classical background music. Mozart is always a good idea. What we should not forget, of course, because it is golden ratio teaching and we think about teaching here, so the emphasis is not on the story. We use the story to create a new intriguing reality, and with the help of this reality to teach the facts we need. Bolding the facts that we need to teach helps the brain discern the new information. So, now that our story is ready, how do we present it? I always prepare a very short narrative with which I introduce for the first time some of the terms or ideas or even the characters in the story. Priming helps the brain. I mentioned it before. If the students are prepared in advance that something new and interesting is about to happen, then their anticipation will add to the success of the teaching process. So, how would I introduce the story about butterflies? Well, I did it once and I dressed up like Frida Kahlo and told the story of my Mexican grandmother and my Canadian grandfather, who loved her so much that he traveled all the way from North to South America, 5,000 kilometers, to see her. And because back then cars were really slow, he traveled with the speed of 20 kilometers per hour, not faster than a butterfly. And every time he brought a pearl. So she received a total of 180,000 pearls. 3,000 of them were from Bulgaria. You see, these numbers and facts could be randomly, casually mentioned with no contextual reference to the subject we're about to teach, but just to let the brain process them before we start teaching. What would help us will also to make posters and hang them on the walls of the classrooms. We can add numbers or facts to the images already seen when we were telling the story, so that the connection is made to what they have heard and seen previously. So we made a list with the facts, we designed the test, we wrote the story, we found the pictures, we rehearsed, we presented first our introduction and then read our story. Our students are enchanted. So what do we do next? Well, we can encourage our students to read the text, do some role play, and compare it to the lesson in the textbook. Or ask them to find all the bolded facts in our story in their lesson in the textbook. Also, in each textbook, some exercises are provided, either in the teacher's book or in the students' notebooks. Turn one or more of these exercises into a game. Make a puzzle, a treasure hunt, write a letter with a request to solve some mystery, and incorporate the task there. In general, we could play with the lesson and the story. We can dance, sing, draw, act it out, improvise. We learn through games. An example I could give of a game is this one. Please tell with real excitement the story from the point of view of the butterfly with which the grandfather shared his innermost desire when he first saw his beloved. Describe yourself first using the following facts. Or, please tell us about your acquaintance with Yasin, who loves to read about butterflies. You're a wonderful, vain caterpillar. So you can describe yourself and make up a short story of your life using the following facts. Or Yasin's aunt, who otherwise murmurs against the books in the library, is actually an avid nature lover and is willing to share interesting things about butterflies with the girl next door, but has a slight speech impediment and says D instead of R. Imagine how quickly and breathlessly she would share the following facts with your faithful listener. Well, each story, as we said, has a beginning, a middle, and an end. We came to the end of our story about storytelling in the classroom. I hope this will inspire you to try writing your own stories to remember, and find out what other tools we have in the toolbox of golden ratio teaching.